please.
There.
Okay. Ta-da! Okay, thank you. So I didn't want to just skip this, but these are some of our socially responsible partners that allow us to bring these events to you guys without charge. A lot of these are local businesses, but also individual donors that do fundraisers for us throughout the year that allow us, again, to bring these events to you. So we are definitely thankful for them. You can visit myturningpoint.org if you would like to find out more about how to give back. So we are appreciative. And before I turn it over to Nanette, this is a Q&A session type event. So if you guys have any questions, on the bottom of your screen, you should have a Q&A box. Feel free to type out your questions there. And when appropriate, I will let Nanette know that these questions are being asked, and we'll make sure to get your questions answered. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your patience as we got this this up and running. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Nanette.
Well, good morning, afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Loving Yourself and Others. We're going to talk about sexuality, intimacy, how to regain or reestablish intimacy with your loved ones, and just have some conversation. And this is my second event, and so I always like to take a pulse of the room or kind of see who's in the audience. And by doing that, as we talk about this conversation, just kind of I want to ask the question, did you, as it relates to intimacy and sexuality as a breast cancer survivor, did you receive any information from your doctors, nurse, or social worker, anyone about what life would be like or what your intimate or sexual life would be like after being diagnosed with breast cancer? So I have a little Padlet, but I think it'll probably, because of time, we've already wasted a little bit of time. If you could just kind of type in the chat, yes, no, I don't remember. And so we can get a sense of how many of you even had this discussion with your clinical team.
Somebody answered none at all.
Okay.
Several people have said none at all. I wish I had. No, I had to ask for a referral to a medical doctor for medicine to help. Bernadette put 3, but I'm not sure what 3 means, Bernadette. Did maybe she doesn't remember.
Okay.
So most of the answers are no. Thank you, guys.
Okay. So then kind of we can skip number 2. If so, who provided the information? So it looks like no one did unless you reached out and requested that information. So that's consistent with the research saying that most time patients do not get this information. And then the next question was, if you did receive the information, was it before you started treatment? Was it during treatment or after treatment? And so for those of you who reached out, at what stage did you reach out? Like when you were first diagnosed, when you were going through the treatment, or after the treatment when you started recognizing some of the side effects and some of the changes?
Near the end. One of Gloria mentioned near the end.
Okay. All right. So it's sad, but it's what is happening. And I've done some, with the research, and it shows that most patients are not giving the information about the changes in their body and what to expect or what to look for after the diagnosis and after going through the treatment. What the research does show is after treatment is over, it takes time, but normally it will resume. It could potentially resume to how your body was prior to, but it's not always. So if you are still going through the treatment, it's something to look forward to. If you finish the treatment and you recognize, no, nothing has changed, then I would recommend talking to one of your doctors or one of the nurses to find out how you can get some help. And we'll talk about some of the changes that you may be recognizing. So what now? What do you do? So we're going to talk about the physical impact as well as the emotional impact. This is an emotional event, emotional education event, but you cannot separate how it physically and physiologically has impacted you, which also impacts your emotional health. So physically, there's body changes, of course, looks and feels different. Breast feels different. Even if you have reconstructive surgery, it still may not feel the same. You may be experiencing menopausal type side effects, such as lower libido, vaginal dryness, vaginal stenosis, which is the walls have kind of shrunk, and so it makes it almost impossible or therefore painful to engage in sexual intercourse, fatigue, hot flashes, and joint pain. So I guess I should have started this as a little viewer discretion advice on some of the things we may talk about. And emotionally, how does it impact you? Self-esteem, your sexual esteem, it changes how you think, how you feel, and how you view sex, your whole view of sex. But I want you to remember or understand anxiety can increase sexual dysfunction. So if there's some anxious feelings, worrying, frustration related to anything sexual, it can also increase your chances of having dysfunction, sexual dysfunction. So we're going to talk about how to decrease anxiety or how to have positive thoughts. So in turn, you'll learn, your body will learn how to be relaxed and learn how to engage in sexual pleasure again. Also recognizing your feelings. They're there, recognizing them, talking about it, and getting the support that you need. You never want to ignore how you're feeling. Also, don't be ashamed of how you're feeling. Don't blame yourself. And most importantly, coping with uncertainty can cause some anxiety. So if you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling disappointed, you're feeling unattracted, you're feeling whatever the feelings are, recognize what they are. Sit and talk to your partner or a friend or family, or even your medical team, and recognize that these are normal feelings for something that you're experiencing. You don't want to blame yourself, blame your partner, or blame others. But recognize that these are true feelings, and what can you do to do things differently so that you can start feeling better. Coping with uncertainty. Is this going to change? Am I going to be like this for the rest of my life? What's going on? Have these conversations with your doctor. Ask them, talk to them about what you are experiencing. They have the medical expertise to tell you and share with you, this is normal, this is some things we can do. No, this is not normal, this is some things we will do. So you want to have a conversation. Oftentimes research shows that women are embarrassed to have the conversation, but don't be embarrassed. Again, this is normal and this is something they're used to. However, if you're sitting silence, they're assuming that everything is okay. So let's talk about just the diagnoses. Breast cancer is one of the most commonly diagnosed cancers for women. But what I want you to understand also is you're not alone. 60 to 70% of breast cancer survivors experience some sort of sexual problems as a result of the treatment. It could be, again, sexual activity, body image, sexual function, sexual arousal, desire, pleasure. But 60 to 70%. Most sexual problems are caused by the physical and psychological problems. So again, the body changes, the inability to have orgasms, not being sexually aroused. Most of the time, our breast is a erogenous zone of where that's where you have sexual pleasure. And now that that's changed, it's different, it may not be there anymore. So frustrations. Most survivors who are experiencing these problems want to learn about and receive information before treatment starts or within 6 months after your treatment. So many of you have already started the treatment. So now within the 6 months, if you're still in it or during the process, is now the time when you probably will start having the questions or concerns or frustrations. So now is the time when you will want to reach out again to your doctor, a social worker, someone on the clinical team who can provide you with the education. But research also shows that receiving the information with your partner is the most helpful. It's COVID, so a lot of you are probably or have probably been through this process or this experience alone. But research shows when it comes to intimacy and sexuality, you want to have a conversation or ensure that your partner is a part of the process so that they don't feel isolated or you don't feel isolated like you have to continue through this process alone. So if you have not received information and after, as a result of hearing this event, hearing this information, you reach out, try to maybe do a Zoom visit or a phone call, or if you have to go to the doctor's office and your partner cannot go due to COVID, call them on the phone and make sure that they can be a part of the conversation. But you want to make sure to include them in the process because there may be questions they may have there, and you may ask the questions while you're alone, and then there's questions they may have. So you want to go through this process together. Okay. Okay. So Larkin, Shaw, and Flowers, they did a study to find that partners who have emotional involvement is reported to be a strong predictor for women's sexual, marital, and emotional adjustment. So if you, again, as I stated, involving and keeping your partner a part of the process is a strong indicator of how you will adjust. And oftentimes from the work, a lot of patients who are having the most struggles are the ones who are feeling alone, feeling they can't talk to their partner, feeling like their partner's not listening to them, feel like they don't want to burden their partner with this information. But this is your partner. And so this is someone you want to include in the process to support you in any way that you see fit that you need the support. And Taylor did a study to explore the extent of sexual problems in terms of the severity for each individual. And they looked at the coping mechanisms and what type of support systems exist, and then how patients' experiences improve as a result of the support systems and the mechanisms. And they found, one, there's a lack of supportive services and interventions to address this issue. And so asking the question in the beginning that many of you have not even received the information. So therefore, if you are experiencing some sexual challenges or frustrations, I already can surmise that you're not getting the support because they didn't even provide that to you. So as I stated before, there's a lack of supportive service, there's a lack of getting the information out there, and in turn, it's causing most of the patients to feel isolated, alone, and not feel comfortable to reach out. Any questions so far?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So what to expect? So I looked at a study, and Taylor, they found 4 themes in their study. And that's what we're going to talk about. What are some of the problems? How does it impact your emotions and your relationships? How do you cope with that? And then how do you get better? How do you improve? How do you do things differently so that you can feel better? So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So again, body images, concerns. I look different. I feel different. There's weight gain. Excuse me. Weight gain, a different appearance in your breast. Some women choose reconstructive, some women do not. Painful sexual intercourse, again, do not get embarrassed. There are lubrication gels, there are suppositories, there's different resource tools that are out there that you can use. It can be the medication. I know it talked about tamoxifen is one that causes a lot of side effects. Reduced libido, no longer have the desire or drive, not wanting to be touched, not wanting to be caressed, not wanting to be bothered, not wanting to get undressed in front of your partner. Talked about loss of breast sensation. That again used to be a place where it causes it provided arousal, and now it doesn't. You don't feel anything. There's numbness, inability to have an orgasm due to the dryness of the vaginal walls. So these are all things that you may be experiencing. And again, a lot of them are medical. And so you will definitely want to talk to your doctor, nurse practitioner, schedule an appointment. But once that gets addressed, then it may be psychological. How is it impacting you emotionally, not having the desire? What can you do? And so that's when we'll talk about later other resources. So if you're experiencing any of these, you don't want to feel embarrassed. I mean, that's the number one thing. Women don't want to talk about it, don't want to burden anyone, don't feel like it's that important, which we'll talk about later. What's important is me surviving, not having sex. And so that's also some things that may be in the back of your brain, like, this is not even important, but it's important for my partner, but by me, but let me just figure this out. So all of that, I just want to normalize our typical behaviors that women experience as a result of this. So angry feelings about your new body, feeling frustrated, upset, how it's negatively impacted your sexual function. But based on what you all said, you all probably didn't even know this was going to even happen. So angry at, why didn't someone tell me? Why didn't someone share this? This was not a part of the process. Why me? Angry at your partners for maybe not feeling that your frustrations of what you're doing, of what you're dealing with. Angry at, as I stated, weight gain. This, again, all of these side effects that probably were not discussed or even mentioned to you, and now you're experiencing, and it's like this big, I always say, like a boat just dropped in your lap and like, figure it out. You're no longer, like I said, no longer interested in sex, just surviving breast cancer. So some of you may be experiencing like, I don't even care about it. It's not even important to me. What's important to me is my health in my life, and that I'm alive and that I'm well. These again are all typical emotions that women experience. Not feeling the need, or felt the need to protect yourself from the pain of not being. So instead of dealing with the fact that I'm not able to enjoy or engage in sexual intercourse, I would just not deal with it at all. And typically that's called numbing, denial, again, normal, because that's safer to deal with than the fact that I'm no longer desirable or no longer feel desirable, or that you're able to engage in sex. So to protect yourself, it's just not important. And the pain that's associated with it's not worth it. What's worth it is that I'm alive. And so these again are normal emotions, but it also impacts the relationship. So how many, I guess I can ask the question, how many of you are experiencing some of, let me go back, some of these problems, physical and or emotional? Anyone want to share? No.
Someone mentioned both physical and emotional.
Okay. Just one person?
Yeah. I think it does let you,
Huh?
I was just say, I think it does let you answer anonymously. So, you know, if you want to participate, but just don't want your name out there, just answer anonymously. If you wish to, just know that that's an option.
Okay. Because I can't see who's responding or not. So I don't know. But again, Is anyone responding? Okay, there's someone.
Another one mentioned the same thing, physical and emotional.
Okay. And so my question is, do you feel comfortable talking to someone about it? Whether it's a doctor, someone on the clinical team, or someone in your family, your partner or friend?
Waiting for some answers.
Don't be shy. Okay. So if you no, okay. So
No comments.
okay, so most likely
Someone mentioned that they've spoken to their partner and they have an appointment with their doctor. Someone else mentioned they're uncomfortable talking about this with anyone. And another person mentioned, I feel comfortable talking with a medical professional.
okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And again, that's all normal, but I want you to think about, what do you want? So if this is something that is uncomfortable for you, something that is causing you anxiety or stress or sadness, then I would recommend identifying someone that you do feel comfortable to begin the conversation, because research shows that it gets better when you start talking about it. So I know some of you have heard suffering in silence. You don't want to suffer in silence. Research show that when you talk about it and begin just to have the conversation, again, maybe with your someone on the clinical team or someone within your family, that's where you start to see improvements. Are you about to say something?
Yes. Another comment was that mentioned, I think it's very hard for women to admit sexual issues because you may not feel sensual after this.
Right. And that again, and I think that's why I start the conversation with, this is normal. So oftentimes when we normalize behavior, then it lowers the wall and makes us feel more comfortable to have the conversation. So remember, I said 60 to 70%. So that's over half of women have experienced some sort of sexual intimacy or problem.
One of the
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say one of the comments made was, I have found that we can talk about all other types of issues except for this one because we don't know how.
Okay. All right. So how do you start having, we'll talk about that as well. You just start talking. But I have some things that we can say how we can get started. But you want to make sure, first of all, identify someone you feel comfortable enough to have the conversation. And I guess my next question would be, you say it's hard to have the conversation. Is it because you feel, one person did say feel this wouldn't be sensual afterwards to feel sexual even though you have a conversation? Is it shame or embarrassment, or is those some of the feelings associated? So, and that's another thing, you want to identify what it is that's keeping you from having the conversation so that you can work towards learning how to have the conversation. So if it's embarrassment or shame, or you're not alone. What's unfortunate, which I've learned, is doctors are not they're not the best at just sharing. They're the better at answering the questions. So it's like, if you don't ask the question, they're going to assume that everything is okay. And so that's why you want to learn how to have that conversation with your medical professional. Sometimes it may start having maybe a therapeutic session, meeting with a counselor, having the conversation, speaking about it, and then learning how to have that conversation with your partner or the medical team.
Yes, one of the comments to your question about, kind of the why, a comment was made, probably insecurities in general. And if you have these emotional and physical scars, it just makes it harder.
Right. Okay. And You're absolutely right. But again, that's why I say you want to find someone you feel comfortable with to have this conversation. Um, Often you feel maybe judged. It's no judgment, especially when you're talking to a professional. You may feel judged when you're talking to a partner, but what is important, if you include them in the process, then they can begin to recognize some of the things that you're experiencing, how you're feeling, and vice versa. You can begin to understand and recognize some of the things they may be experiencing and feeling, and work together instead of you working to fix it, the partner's working to fix it, and then hopefully it'll work itself out. Okay. So how do you cope? As I stated, communication, communication, communication. All the research shows that you want to find a way, and I won't say figure because I think it's kind of putting the onus on you, but find a way that you feel comfortable to have the conversation with either a professional or your partner. Because that's important. All the research show just having the conversation, talking about it, communicating, even though you guys have identified that's probably one of the hardest things to do is to have the conversation and talk about it. And so I would recommend starting then with a counselor so that you can learn the tools to begin to feel safe to have the conversation. Insecurities are normal because of what it is, sex. Everyone's supposed to do that well, do it good, be happy and happy about it. And now it's something that's not is not a source of happiness. And so it can be very discouraging and disappointing. So being able to have the conversation with someone initially to talk about it in a safe place. If some of the mental or the physical problems you're experiencing, you would definitely want to talk to your doctor because they can provide you with resources to mitigate those problems. There's medication, there's lubricants, there's things that they know as the doctor that are safe for you that you can try to help with that process. Then once you get comfortable, then begin to have the conversation with your partner. But again, you want to also try and include them as much as possible so they can understand what it is that you're going through. Oftentimes people respond in a way that is safe for them, but also do because they're not clear and they don't understand. Process coming back together, working with your partner, the need for shared understanding of each other's feelings, so that you can understand what they're going through, but more importantly, they can understand what you're going through and how you're feeling. And it's hard for them to support you if they don't know what it is that you are experiencing or some of the feelings that you're having. Some of you may also have partners that are not that supportive. And so you're thinking or saying, no, not with mine, can't do that. That's when I would invite you to invite them to meetings and appointments with you through the process so that they can get a sense and hear and see from a professional what you are going through. Oftentimes they ignore us or you, they may ignore you and say, oh, it's not that bad, or you can get through it, or you're alive, let's just move on. But if they hear you having the conversation with a medical team, it may resonate with them like, okay, this is something serious. This is something they are actually reaching out. And then they can then learn how to support you through that process. Also, it's the time for you to begin to accept compliments from your partner about your body. Accept them reassuring that if they say you, for example, you feel you've gained a lot of weight and they tell you, nope, you look fine. And nope, I'm fat, I've gained all this weight. Instead of the, nope, I'm fat, accepting that they are accepting who you are. And so it will also help you to begin to start accepting who you are. More importantly, also give yourself time to heal, time to adjust to your new body, to your new you. You don't want to rush into anything. You don't want to force anything, because if you are not comfortable with your body, with yourself, you will not be comfortable with engaging in any intimacy or sexual relationships with your partner. Questions? Feedback? This is
Nope,
awesome.
not any right now. We're
All
all
right.
engaged. Oh, wait, there's a comment. So, a comment is, my partner would always want to caress my reconstructed breast, and I didn't understand it because I can't feel anything. I told him it didn't do anything for me, but he said he has taught himself to love them and wants to treat them the same way he used to treat my old breasts. Part of me considers this to be endearing, but another part of me hates him being touched.
So that's deep.
Mhm.
But, and then the question I asked is, part of you feel that it's enduring. Can you sit with that feeling and embrace that feeling and not embrace the negative, but embrace the positive that your partner still wants to engage with you and love you and accept the new you. And one of the challenges too is, how can you begin to accept the new you? Regaining confidence about your relationship. You are still loved. Your partner may still want to be intimate with you. And intimacy is not just sex. You, the person who just spoke, it's the touching, the hugging, the kissing, the cuddling. These are all things that gives you the opportunity to feel loved, give you opportunity to begin to heal and understand and recognize what the new you looks like, how the new you can begin to engage in intimate relationships. But what the biggest thing is, and we're going to do a little activity, is changing how you think and how you feel. Positive thoughts improves how you feel about yourself. And when you feel good, you think good, you have good thoughts, positive thoughts, you begin to engage and have positive behaviors. And where I'm going to show you a chart. And I always tell clients, people can affirm you, support you, say all the things, but if you don't feel it within, it doesn't matter. So you have to start affirming yourself, believe in yourself, believe that life can be different, believe that it can be better. Because as you can see, your partners may be doing that, but if you don't feel that way, it doesn't matter. It's not important. And so I have an activity about how you can begin to love yourself again, your new body. And it's looking at different positive attributes or things about yourself from A to Z. And again, I'll show that. So back to that last comment, it's going to start with you starting to feel better about yourself and who you are, and begin to accept who you are and the new you. Is that a comment?
Yes. So a comment was just made. I tell him how to touch without causing pain or stress. Maybe just found underneath, or just a nipple, or just a side caress. Find what doesn't stress you.
Right. And we'll talk about that. Wanting to make sure you share when things do feel good, share that so they can do more of it. Because otherwise they're going to think what they're doing is okay and right, and it may not be. So you do want to make sure, again, a part of communication. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So what is cognitive restructuring? How do you change how you think and how you feel about yourself? What you want to do is think about a situation. What are the feelings associated with that situation? What are the thoughts associated with it? What is the evidence that there's validity to that thought or that situation? And then what are some alternatives? So here's an example. Here's the situation. Think about something that's happened that was upsetting. So maybe as a result of the breast cancer, you no longer feel attracted. You feel like you can no longer have sex. That's what's going on. How does you feel from score from 1 to 10? You feel disgusted. You feel frustrated. So what are your thoughts about that? My partner thinks I'm ugly, or I will never have sex again. And so what are some is there any validity to those irrational thoughts? That's not true. Actually, you're beautiful. You're actually smart. So you want to begin to affirm yourself with all of the positive things about yourself. Think positive, so that you can begin to engage and do things in a positive way. But also, you may not be able to have vaginal intercourse for right now, or for, however long time, but there's also other ways to get satisfaction sexually. And so you want to think about how can that happen and begin to explore that. And then you want to write down things that you can tell yourself to counterbalance the negative thoughts. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's within you. I am enough. I am okay. There's other things that we can do to be intimate. So you want to refrain from the all or nothing. Either we can or we cannot, but begin to think about other ways to do things that are pleasurable or pleasing to yourself as well as your partner. Questions about this? And this is something that you can do with a lot of things, not just sex. This is just an example, but a lot of things. Prepare yourself for going to the doctor. Every time I go to the doctor, I get bad news. Well, no, that's not true. Maybe when you went to the doctor, found out you were pregnant, or that you were going to have something else positive. So it's not, you want to refrain from the all or nothing or the negative thoughts that will then cause the ruminating or irrational beliefs, and then cause you to isolate, withdraw, or feel like you're not enough. Any questions?
Nothing so far.
Okay. Another activity is loving yourself from A to Z. I often do this with clients, how you can empower yourself. So identify positive things about yourself, with each alphabet: attractive, lovable, kind, wonderful, things that you can think about yourself to learn how to begin to love yourself and accept yourself. Remember, if you don't love yourself and accept yourself, nobody else will. It doesn't matter what anybody else say or do, is not important. It's how you feel about you. And so I've had clients do this once. They do it one time and just keep going back to it when they have negative thoughts. Clients come up with different words about themselves and attributes and fill it in, and accordingly, it's up to you. But think about, how do you start pouring into you to help you to feel better? And then I've had clients post it around their homes, do certain sticky notes or things to just remind them of who they are, how they are, the way they are, but continue to build themselves. And then when someone else come and say, oh, you look such and, or you're X, Y, and Z, or you're this and that, you begin to accept it and begin to believe it, because you believe it within as well. Okay. So how can it get better? How can it improve? Again, contact the medical team, your treatment team, to get information about side effects related to the treatment. Identify someone on the treatment team that you can talk to about sexuality or intimacy. Research show that I hope I say it right, a nurse who specializes in I'll show it, but I can't say the word. But nurse practitioners who are on the team are ones who are sought the most frequently. Then the general practitioner, and then a social worker. Utilize support systems, counseling, support groups, a couples therapist, to go and talk about how to reestablish or re-engage in intimate sexual relationships. Again, there's improvement is possible when you have someone to talk to, whether it's informal or formal, but you don't want to continue, or you don't want to suffer in silence. So reestablishing intimacy is challenging, not just for you, but also from your partner. But you want to make sure you want to avoid withdrawing from your partner due to fear of dying. Remember, we talked about earlier that you might be and have the mindset that I've survived cancer and that's all that's important to me. And so you may avoid or withdraw from your partner because you're feeling like maybe I'm gonna die or it's not worth it. You don't want to have, again, negative thoughts, negative feelings, and then ultimately withdraw from your partner. So you want to stay present, stay in the moment, enjoy the time that you have now. None of us are promised tomorrow, regardless to what we're dealing with in our life. It's never promised. So you want to embrace and enjoy and be in the present and avoid from worrying about the future because it may cause you to withdraw from your partner. Stop or prevent the cycle of misunderstanding. Reach out to your partner, but also accept your partner when they reach out to you. Communicate that cancer cannot destroy your love or the intimate relationship. So have that conversation, have those discussions. And again, the running theme, talk openly and honestly. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Openly engage in general conversation with your partner to make it easier to talk about your fears or your concerns. So again, generally just have the conversation. Establish some alone time with your partner so that you're not having much interruptions when you're having this conversation. It's nothing like trying to have the conversation and then here come the kids or here come family or phone or you got to look at this text or check this email. So you want to set aside some time for your partner so that you and the person can engage and have meaningful conversation. If your partner doesn't say much, still have the conversation because they're listening. They may not know how to respond. Make sure you give them good eye contact. Because just because they don't respond does not mean they don't care or they're not listening. Try not to accuse. Try not to say, you never touch me anymore or demand that we need to have sex sooner. Instead, try to state your feelings in a positive manner. Remember, talked about positive thoughts, positive feelings, positive actions. For example, I really miss our sex life, or I like to talk about what's getting in the way of us getting close. Or I like to talk about when you touch or caress my breast, this is how it feels, or this is what I'd like you to do, or can you do more or less of this? But you want to have the conversation. You want to reassure your partner. Make sure to ask them about their concerns, how they're feeling. Again, they may be quiet because they don't know what to say. They don't want to put the burden or fears or any additional concerns onto you because they feel like you're dealing with a lot yourself and they don't want to put their own concerns onto you, which is a sidebar. Turning Point is going to start doing a group for caregivers and partners to help them learn how to process those feelings. More importantly, don't assume they don't care. People express and show things totally different. They respond to stressors in different ways, even if it's someone you may have been married to for so long. And it's like, they've never done this before. What is this? This means they don't care. This is new. And so how they respond may be a different way than how they've responded to other things that may not have been the best news or best information in the past. So you don't want to assume they don't care. They just don't know what to do. And they may too feel numb or afraid or scared. And this is how they're responding. But you want to both continue to communicate and ensure there's communication so that it doesn't stagnate or cause problems in the relationship. All right. Write down your concerns. Sometimes having that conversation is not that easy. So maybe write a letter. Maybe less stressful, give it to them, and then set aside some alone time to process and discuss what you wrote about or what you talked about. That may be easier for them, giving them also time to process what you've said and what you've expressed or shared. Again, be clear with each other. Communicate what you want, what you don't want, where you want to be touched or where you don't want to be touched. Create a buzzword or a signal that you would use if it's painful, but also communicate when something feels good. So again, if something is not working, you want to let them know, and don't just sit again and suffer in silence and go with it because you feel that's what they want to do. You want to share and explain and express to them, no, that's not okay. However, when you do X, Y, and Z, that does feel good. I do like that. That way they'll do more of that and less or not at all of the other that's not pleasurable to you. And then last, try not to get upset if your partner does not seem interested in the physical intimacy. But also if you don't feel interested in physical intimacy, because your low energy levels of fatigue can contribute to that and may cause you not to want to engage. So again, if there's no desire or there's no interest for right now, don't get frustrated. Again, it's a part of the process. Give yourself time. And then if there's a time when you feel like, you know what, I'm starting to feel, but maybe something's not right, that's when you reach out and talk to a professional about what are some of the things that are going on with you. And then last, again, most importantly, use touch. Maintain physical closeness. Make sure you're hugging, you're kissing, holding hands. You want to stay connected. Research shows that it helps you to feel loved and desirable. Express acceptance and caring. Show caring and loving and enduring to your partner, and then they will hopefully reciprocate that and show that to you as well. This contributes to you learning how to accept your new body, and also contribute to you learning how to have build your self-confidence. So if you are not engaging in physical touch, holding, kissing, any affectionate thing, it also supports you not learning how to accept the new you, more of about being ashamed, embarrassed, and disgusted with the new you because you don't want to embrace and do things that are loving and enduring with your new body. So you want to make sure you continue to do that as much as possible, as frequently as possible. And again, if you're not able to, have some concerns or struggles or challenges with it, that's when you want to reach out to a professional to help you, provide you with the tools that you'll need to begin to do this. Because again, research shows continue to engage in touch and continuously to communicate are the keys to success and things getting better and improving. All right. Takeaway. Any questions or takeaways from today's event? Don't be shy.
I'm waiting to see if anybody has any questions. All right. Nanette, what is your degree?
So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I have a master's in social work and I have a doctorate in social work. And an undergrad is in exercise science or kinesiology. At first I wanted to be a physical therapist. And here I am at Turning Point.
She said, cool. Another comment was, I learned I am not alone in this struggle.
Good. So I hope you'll learn to also reach out to this struggle so that you don't have to continue to be alone. Anyone else?
Not right now. If you want to share, Nanette, I know that you do see our patients one-on-one. Can you share your schedule on that?
So if you are interested in reaching out to me as a professional, a social worker or a counselor to talk about this, I am at Turning Point on Wednesdays. You can contact Sandy and schedule a one-on-one session. We also are offering groups after the storm, have discussion about this. It's the fourth Wednesday of every month at 6 o'clock. We are also bringing back the Coffee and Conversation group, which will be also on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. And as I stated, each month we're going to add a different group. So we've re-established the Coffee and Conversations for February. March, we are going to look at either caregivers or partners of survivors of breast cancer as a group. And right now it's on Wednesday. So it's going to be, we haven't decided which Wednesday, but it'll be on a Wednesday. But I'll invite you to encourage or tell your partners about it so that they can have a safe space and place to have the conversation. Because we don't want them suffering in silence either. So both of you are suffering in silence and nothing's getting done. And so Turning Point has realized the importance and the significance of getting you support, not just physical or at the doctor's office, but also at home. I can tell you research shows lack of social support is the number one factor to depressive symptoms, anxiety. So if you're not getting the support at home and maybe your partner doesn't know how to support you, the support group will be an opportunity for them to learn how to support you.
Thank you. So a few more comments. Thank you for this session. Although I'm single, this helps me to have these uncomfortable topics with my future partner. Gloria reached out and said, if anyone wants to connect personally, please private message me on Facebook. I can share my experience, but I don't give medical advice. Thank you, Gloria. That's a good support system there. And then great presentation, said that 2 out of 3 of us deal with this and most had no idea about this challenge.
Yeah. Again, as I do research and I learn more about it, again, do not suffer in silence. A lot of research show embarrassment or you're supposed to have it together. So therefore you should not need help. And anytime should is in the sentence, it's not okay. It's you blaming yourself or not feeling that it's okay to. So I always say remove should from the question. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's all get us in trouble to what we should be doing, but also unrealistic expectations. So again, as I stated, 60 to 70% of women experience these problems. But when I looked at the research, over 50% never got any information about it. And so didn't realize it was a problem until it was a problem.
Just a comment saying thanks. Great presentation.
No problem. And again, if you want to meet with me individually, just the 1 time, 2 times, you can contact Sandy and she can schedule an appointment. It's not, you don't have to have no deep, processing going into any deep therapy, just some coping tools, mechanisms, how to learn how to deal with this and how to empower yourself so that you can feel better.
I think that's it. If there's no more questions, we just want to thank everyone. Nate, I don't know, Nanette, have you had any other comments before I take over?
No, thank you.
I'm sorry, Bobby just said great job. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Are you going to say anything? All right. Well, we will get this posted. I just want to say real briefly, well, thank you for your time. We have a couple of education events that I just briefly want to tell you about that you can go ahead and register for. They're on myturningpoint.org under our calendar of events. Next week, we have, back by popular demand, our nutritionist is going to be talking about eating a plant-based diet, and that's by our dietitian. So you can join us for that. That's going to be on February 19th. On February 24th, our second National Forum on Racial Disparities and Breast Cancer Survivorship. This is going to be part 2, community engagement, and you can go ahead and register for that as well. And then on March 18th, we're going to be having Jay Screen come on and talk about after the breast cancer diagnosis, why genetic testing is vital for your treatment, your future, and your family. And that is also open for registration. All these events, there's no charge for them. So we welcome you to come and join and tell others about it as well. If you're appreciative for these events, one of the best ways is to tell others about Turning Point. But if you feel inclined to make a donation, you can go to myturningpoint.org or easily find us on PayPal, and you can easily donate through your PayPal account. So thank you so much for your time. Feel free to reach out to us like Nanette said, and we can schedule you for a one-on-one. So everyone have a great day, and thank you for your time today.
Bye-bye.
Bye.